welcome. I'm Reverend Dr. Kara Markell, Assistant Director of Seattle University's Center for Ecumenical and Interreligious Engagement. On behalf of the Women's Task Force of the Parliament of the World's Religions and our partner organizations, I want to welcome you to this special webinar today. Women's Task Force encourages and enables collective and individual action to promote the dignity and human rights of women and girls, to stop religiously justified violence against women and girls, and to promote women's leadership and equal participation in religious, faith, spiritual, and other institutions. We are joined today by the Center for Earth Ethics, by UN Women, Green Hope, the Earthchild Institute, the Green Tent Circle, and my institution, Seattle University. So welcome into this. If you weren't here when I said this before, I just want to remind you that today's session will be recorded and shared later. I want to invite you to keep your microphone muted, and if you don't want your video visible, to turn that off at this time as well. We are joined today by some remarkable panelists and leaders, and I want to take just a moment to introduce each one of them before we get fully underway. Great Grandmother Mary Lyons is an Ojibwe Ojibwe elder, a spiritual advisor, storyteller, author, and wisdom keeper. She travels and teaches internationally with the Indigenous grandmothers of the sacred we. She is the founder of the Minnesota Coalition on Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, an Indian Child Welfare Act expert witness, and a Native American family and child advocate. She was a keynote speaker at the Parliament of the World's Religions gathering in Salt Lake City, Utah in 2015, and at the People's Climate March in New York City in 2014. She also serves as one of the UN's Indigenous Peoples Knowledge Holder for North America. Grandmother Mary is guided by her ancestors and has dedicated her life to helping others. Kehkashan Basu is a globally recognized educator, environmentalist, feminist, TEDx speaker, author, and musician who serves as a trustee of the Parliament of the World's Religions and co-chair of its Next Gen Task Force. She is the founder, president of Green Hope Foundation, which works across 29 countries, empowering over 500,000 women and girls by harnessing clean energy technology for social good. For her work, Kehkashan has received Canada's Meritorious Service Medal and has been named a UN Human Rights Champion and to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Jacqueline Patterson is the founder and executive director of the Chrysome, I hope I said that correctly, Legacy Project. Its mission is to serve as a vehicle to connect Black frontline communities with the resources to actualize visions. She serves on the advisory boards for the Center of Earth Ethics, Tishman Environment and Design Center, and the Hive Fund for Gender and Climate Justice, on the governance assemblies for Mosaic Momentum and Collectify. She also serves on the board of directors for the Bill Anderson Fund, Emerald Cities Collaborative, Movement Strategy Center, the Just Solutions Collective, the National Black Workers Center Project, and Series. In March 2024, Jacqueline was honored and named as one of Time Magazine's Women of the Year, as well as receiving the Time Magazine Earth Award. And Dora Sugimoto is President, Special Secretary as advisor for Solidarity Economy for the Brazil government. She is a member of the Popular Solidarity Economy movement and the Workers' Party and Colectivo Flores pela Democracia, I hope I said that correctly, Flowers for Democracy. She worked with the popular women's housing movements and solidarity economy throughout the sewing cooperatives in Brazil, part of the Popular Economy Group Council on Economic Policy. Thank you all so much for being here and for being in conversation and leadership in this gathering today. I want to turn to Great Grandmother Mary Lyons and invite her to gather us and open our circle.
Mm. Miigwech. Milo Gesip Nijnibi Ikwa Indis Nakas. I said good morning in my language. My name is Second Water Woman, and it's an honor to be in the presence of you all. First, I'd like to ask you all just to take a moment to acknowledge the land that you're residing on and to acknowledge the original people. Myself, I'm on the indigenous territories of the Dakota people here in Minnesota. And I would like to bring a special acknowledgement to one of our FWG co facilitators that has been arrested in Russia that is facing trial today. And her name is Daria. So I want to include her and all the many others throughout the globe that are incarcerated within this prayer. This is a solstice prayer for peace, understanding, and release. Great Spirit, Creator as one knows Him to be, please hear our prayers for our dear relatives that are throughout the world that may be facing the disparities that should not be. Creator, you hold the power to whisper liberation to the ones that hold the keys to unlock the doors that imprison our dear friends and all their colleagues and all the lands and everything else that's in them that are falsely being uh, implicated, in the treatments that they should not be in. Creator, as one knows him to be, we come before you asking for the freedom for them all, the freedom for the lands, and the freedom for the air. Creator, please let our prayer fires pierce through the darkness, guiding our friends towards the open doors of opportunity and release and the freedom of organicness. Creator, please grant us all the strength to stand strong until our pathways lead back to a level of the organicness that Creator had meant for us all to be in. Creator, for the ones standing outside the locked gates, please hear our spirit prayers. We ask you to remind us the power of prayers by touching the earth and sending our energy through our mother to bring the love to all the land, to all the people that are feeling hardships. We ask you to remind us wherever you stand, may each of you touch the waters and send the love and courage to all within on this beautiful place we call home, Mother Earth. We ask you to remind us whenever we stand outside breathing the air as our friends are breathing across the way in their territories. May they take in this breath that Mother Earth blows and inhales the strength so we all may embrace ourselves in unity. Creator, we need your strength and guidance through these troubling times. Please grant us all, please grant my dear friend Daria and all that are incarcerated the freedom they need so much. Please let the ones that are having no voice to know that the strength in our energy within the space that we're sending out to them, that they do not stand or sit alone. In closing, we send these prayers to the east, to the south, the west, and the north, to the universe, and to Mother Earth. May each of you hold your hearts with these prayers. Creator, we thank you for all you do and for the lessons you believe each of us can weather. Chimigwech, 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 chimigwech kichimani do. In my language, that means thank you, great Creator. May this Zoom carry strength, guidance, and knowledge that will hold power in each of us. Miigwech, thank you.
Thank you so much for centering us and bringing us into this space as we gather. I want to introduce one more special guest and panelist. Samira Siddique is the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Center for Earth Ethics. She has extensive experience in global climate change justice, spanning the politics of aid and development, climate displacement, and movement building around the spiritual, ethical, and cultural dimensions of the climate crisis. So, welcome, Samira, and thank you for some opening remarks that will help orient us all to the work of the Global Ethical Stocktake.
Thank you very much, Cara, and thank you as well to Great Grandmother Mary Lyons for that very beautiful and resonant opening. My name is Samira Siddique, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Center for Earth Ethics. And I just want to take a few minutes to orient us all around what the Global Ethical Stocktake is, how it came about, and why it matters for the conversation that we're about to have here today at CSW. So I'll just start with some brief background. So every year, as many of you may know, the world's governments meet at a United Nations climate summit known as the COP to negotiate on greenhouse gas emissions, greenhouse gas targets, and climate finance. And last November was COP 30, which was held in Belém, Brazil. And these are very important processes, but they're also very technical and are often dominated by a relatively narrow set of voices. So, government representatives, scientists, economists, and very often, in recent years, fossil fuel interests. At COP29 in 2024, only 8 of the 78 world leaders who spoke were women, and more than 1,600 fossil fuel lobbyists attended COP 30 last year. So the people who are most affected by the climate crisis are still largely not the ones who are making decisions about it and are in the rooms where those decisions are being made. So, as part of the COP, there is a formal review process built into these negotiations called the Global Stocktake. So, that is a technical assessment of where the world stands on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But we know that the science has actually been very clear for decades. What's missing isn't more data. Really, what's missing is a moral and ethical compass and a moral accounting mechanism. And this is where the global ethical stocktake comes in. It was created to ask this very essential question more seriously. The question is, if we know what we need to do to address climate change, then why aren't we doing it? The Global Ethical Stocktake was conceived by Marina Silva, who is Brazil's Minister for Environment and Climate Change, and it was launched under the leadership of President Lula da Silva and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. So it's a process that carries real political weight, but its whole purpose is to actually bring in the voices that formal climate processes have often left out. Its premise is that the climate crisis isn't only a technical failure, but it's inevitably a moral one, and that we won't find our way through it without engaging the ethical, spiritual, and cultural dimensions of what it means to live in right relationship with the earth. So, in the lead up to COP 30 last fall, the Global Ethical Stocktake convened 6 regional dialogues, one on each continent, and each one brought together voices that are rarely in the rooms of these official negotiations. So, indigenous leaders, frontline and grassroots communities, elders, youth, people of faith, artists, and moral philosophers. And many of the co leaders of those dialogues were women. And the founder and executive director of the Center for Earth Ethics, Corinna Gore, co-led the North America Regional Dialogue that happened last September in New York City. So alongside the regional dialogues, there were also self-organized dialogues, which any community around the world was able to organize on their own. And hundreds of these took place worldwide. I had the privilege of supporting many of them. One was in New York City during Climate Week and the UN General Assembly. There was another held at the Vatican, where faith leaders from around the world, alongside a conference where Pope Leo made his first statements on climate change, also took place. And another very powerful one was in New Orleans, marking the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And that one was co-facilitated by the amazing Jackie Patterson, who was also a participant at the North America Regional Dialogue and will be speaking on our panel soon. And each of these dialogues was shaped by a core Brazilian concept of mutirão, which essentially means communities coming together in shared work and shared responsibility. The dialogues were structured around 5 discussion questions, which I'm hoping my wonderful colleague Rosie can share in the chat. These questions asked, again, not only what needs to change, but what traditions, histories, and spiritual practices might teach us about how to live differently in a better relationship with the natural world. So, all of that brings us to today and why this gathering right now is so significant. The Global Ethical Stocktake has always held that gender justice and climate justice are not separate modalities, that the exclusion of women's voices, as well as the voices of young girls, from these processes is part of why we are where we are with global climate change. So CSW is actually a really excellent forum to continue these conversations about our collective climate futures, bringing together women's voices, perspectives, and ways of knowing. So we're very excited to hear from our incredible panelists and then also from all of you who've joined us here today as you engage with some of the questions that the Global Ethical Stocktake posed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samira, for that wonderful description. I'm sure I invite anyone who's interested in more information about the stocktake to visit the Center for Earth Ethics. There's some videos there and some ways to get to know the process even more. So thank you, as it is guiding our gathering today and hopefully guiding continued self-organized dialogues. And we're going to hopefully equip you to do that today. I want to invite now our panelists to respond to just one of the 5 questions. This is a key question for us in this time. What traditions, histories, or practices, either cultural or spiritual, from your community teach us to live in greater harmony with nature? And I'll invite each panelist to respond for about 5 minutes. I'll give you a little wave when you're close to the end of your time. And then we'll have some time to respond to one another. So I'm going to invite Great Grandmother Mary Lyons to begin.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. 5 minutes. I keep thinking 5 minutes. How can I condense this in 5 minutes? And the first thing comes to mind is just when you take that breath, when you inhale, just knowing that air, because we have this belief system that we had this original agreement with Creator when we entered this planet that we come as a student, walk as a student, and leave as a student. And so when we entered our mother's wombs, we swam in the rivers of knowledge. Everything that was before us since the beginning of time laid in those libraries of water. And then when we took that first breath and that opening that door into this world, we took that breath of air that was our next one. And then we felt the warmth of fire and we planted our feet on Mother Earth. You see, those are only 4 elements that everybody and everything within this planet is made up of. There is no separation. We all depend on it. But it was mankind that divided that, because see, those 4 elements shows no prejudice and we all depend on it. So once we acknowledge everything that keeps us, in tune to life, the first thing is we do is we wake up in the morning, we say our thank yous for having this another classroom of knowledge. When we go to the plants, we thank them for, just the fruits that we are going to be nourishing, just for, that's going to sustain us. And with that water in that there, we know the water, for me, also being a water protector, is that the greatest prayer I have in that morning, each morning, is that I have to ask for forgiveness because the water that falls from the faucets no longer has that spiritual content in it because of the chemicals that have gone through them over and over again. But when I go back home and when I go to the springs and the watersheds and out there, I'm so grateful. I put my hands in it. It's just like giving that hug to a relative and sharing in that honest, caring, loving relationship. So we really stand firm, um, acknowledging all the elements. We don't have that grander thinking of, it takes this person and that person. But we have to realize this menace the world is in now is less than 125 years from a real organic lifestyle to uh, chaos. And so we have to remind our children and everyone that's around us that if I ask you the question, would you be able to survive in this world if everything was turned off as you know it? And so that's how we try to introduce gardening, the importance of water, the importance of light that's around you, and not only how it nourishes you and feeds you what your body needs, but what the plants need. We talk about the waters that flow under the ground. So we do a lot of storytelling of how the roots of the trees and the plants absorb that relationship and how it comes out into blossom and it gives this beautiful oxygen. So we share all these stories, even with the young people, old people, anybody, about how we're in unity in the relationship within this global system. And then we also talk about that missing knowledge. Um, we wonder why some of our landscapes change, and we tell them that it's about relationships forgotten because that water underground, if they're going and if it's going to meet a friend, just like if you were going down the street to meet a relative and you walk in there or the building's gone or whatever it is, you're devastated. Same as the water. If they come in and they just start taking all the trees away or they start mining and the disruption in there, that severs a relationship. So they have to detour around. So what happens is it not only affects part of that element, it starts affecting all of us. And so we have to storyboard that originality before we can go into any other mass explanations of what's happening in today's world. Because we lived thousands and thousands of years organically. We knew how to garden. A lot of us weren't even meat eaters. We didn't even really have to have 3 meals a day. And we also have to remind people that you have to really question yourself now about a lot of the marketing techniques around it that tell you what you need, because a lot of things what you need, fast food, I'm going to go to fast food and I'm going to get this because I'm really tired. That's really lessening your life because of what's all in that fast food versus taking the time, if you're going to be tired that week, of making something on Sunday that you can throw in a crock pot or whatever it may be, but to also teaching the wellness of how to keep your universe, your body healthy, instead of feeling that a doctor, a clinic, or pharmacies can keep you healthy. It's not. It just temporarily a band-aid on you. But you have to go back to the original roots of what's happening and embracing those four elements and how important they are to each one of us. So this is what we try to platform on our daily instructions. So I think it's a fabulous question. I'm just excited to hear what the rest of the ladies have to say. So I hope you can relate to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Great Grandmother Mary Lyons, for sharing that. I'm really struck by the way you began as a storyteller to take us back to the elemental relationship that we have with the earth. Thank you. I'm going to invite Kehkashan Basu to share her thoughts with us next.
Thank you very much, Kara, and hello, everyone. First of all, I'd just like to say that being at any CSW event is just always so wonderful for me because these are events that are highlighting the voices and the actions that women are taking all across the world. And it gives me so much hope because, obviously we all know this, that, as women, we have and are still continue to be traditionally left out of spaces where our voices are needed the most. But here it's like it's just so wonderful to be in the space of hope, of understanding, of compassion, and of seeing leadership in action. So I wanted to start by saying that, and I'm very honored that I'm able to be here today to be able to share with you some of the lessons from my faith and how that shapes the work that I do in this regard. So I am connecting with you from Toronto, Canada, and I would like to acknowledge that Toronto is on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto is also covered by Treaty 13, which was signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. And this acknowledgement reminds us that long before we have these modern climate debates, Indigenous communities, as Great Grandmother Mary Lyons was saying, that we had practice systems of stewardship, of respect for the natural world, and the teachings from Indigenous communities reinforce this simple but profound truth that humanity is not separate from nature, but we are a part of it. And that is also echoed in the teachings of my faith. So I grew up as a Hindu with a very, very interfaith upbringing where respect for diverse traditions was deeply embedded in our everyday life. And across all of these traditions, there was a shared message that I always encountered. And that was our Mother Earth is sacred, and that our relationship with nature must be guided by humility, by responsibility, and with care. And one concept that deeply shaped my worldview comes from Hindu philosophy, and that's Bhumi Devi, looking at the earth as a living goddess. And so in this tradition, our earth is not merely a resource to be exploited. She is revered as our mother. She is the living entity deserving gratitude, protection, and where we all come from. Like without her, we would not be here as human beings or any creature for that matter. And so when we see our Mother Earth this way, environmental destruction is not just like an environmental failure, it becomes an ethical failure. And so it's this perspective that also led me to identify as not just a feminist, but an ecofeminist, recognizing that there are all of these interconnected systems that exploit both nature and our marginalized communities. But what it also does is that it highlights something much more powerful, that leadership is rooted in care, it's rooted in cooperation and respect for life. And once we kind of move ahead in that regard, we can help transform these systems. And we already know that across all cultures, women have long been custodians of ecological knowledge. So whether that's protecting water resources or preserving seeds or nurturing food systems, sustaining their communities, women's voices and leadership have been absolutely essential in shaping any kind of climate solutions that are just and inclusive. And yet, we continue to be left out of the processes that are currently deciding for our world where we should go. So what is really important for me as a grassroots actor then is to make sure that we center the voices of the women and girls, and that we see them as not just, oh, yeah, they're victims and that's it. We see them as the leaders, the innovators who are bringing about the change, showing how ethical principles can be translated into tangible action. So we work with communities across multiple countries to empower girls and marginalized young people and women to become environmental stewards and climate leaders. So whether that's, in Cambodia, where we've built solar-powered water distillation systems that transform contaminated surface water into clean drinking water for the floating village communities that are facing water insecurity due to the climate crisis. So this is an initiative that not only provides a sustainable solution for water scarcity, but also empowers the local young women with skills and knowledge to manage and maintain the system. Here in Canada, our regenerative agriculture initiatives bring young people and seniors together to restore soil health, to strengthen food security, build climate resilient communities. And through these intergenerational programs, we see how traditional ecological knowledge and technology can complement each other. So the reason I share this with you is because I wanted to share what ethical climate action looks like in practice and why it's so important for us to embed these ethics into literally every facet of decision making when it comes to the climate crisis. So climate policies, investments, not just being guided by financial returns, but really focusing on inclusion and responsibilities towards all our generations. And the last thing I'll say is that the concept of Bhumi Devi reminds us that the earth is not something that we own. It's something that we hold in trust for all those who'll come after us. So I truly believe that, if we ground our climate action in ethics, if we ground it in care, respect, diversity, and compassion, we'll build a future that's not just sustainable, but also one that is rooted in equity and one that is rooted in justice for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kehkashan, for your sharing. I really appreciate you naming that there's a common thread across and through various religious practices and spiritual traditions that really claim that the earth is sacred and that our religions and spiritual traditions have other values too, not just specifically related to the earth, but of justice and care and compassion that transcend any particular topic that we might be talking about. So thank you so much. Jacqueline Patterson, I want to invite you to respond to the original question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's such a honor to follow Grandmother Mary and Sister Kehkashan. And I really want to continue in a very same vein without being repetitive, but because, as you say, it all links together, there's some level of repetition, but I'll try to be additive and just acknowledge the common themes that we're talking about. So it was timely as I was semi-frantically preparing for this panel that I'm already working on a paper on Afro-descendant really African traditional knowledge systems and how they are present across the planet. And so I've been immersing myself deeply in how African traditional knowledge systems have are so earth affirming in their nature. And I was drawn to looking at, in some ways, with the framing of this paper that I'm working on, that really talks about everything from how our relationship with water to our relationship with soil to our relationship with each other and beyond. It really gives a lot of specific ways that some that not only are we already seeing the ways to honor the earth coming through African traditional knowledge systems, but also it paints the pathways in very much in conjunction and alignment with indigenous, because many of them are indigenous practices, in terms of pointing the way that we can actually heal the planet going forward and sustain it in a better way going forward. So I want to lift up, as folks might know, the Maulana Karenga, who as a Pan-Africanist came up with the 7 principles of based on Swahili culture, Swahili language, these 7 principles of Kwanzaa, but those 7 principles really embody these cultural practices and ways of being. So we're talking about starting with what we've been talking about in terms of faith. Imani is one of the grounding principles, and Kuumba in terms of creativity is one of the grounding principles. Nia in terms of purpose, a shared purpose. Ujama, cooperative economics. Ujima is collective work and responsibility. Kujichagulia, self-determination and local self-reliance, and then Umoja in terms of unity. So that is a framing that we use when we talk about the ways, and it all kind of really is again grounded in faith, but so much of it is around collectivity, around cooperation, around interdependence. And as we think about the faith aspect, it's definitely around caring for the sacred. So some of the super concrete types of findings that I had, even as I was doing some of this research, drew me back to some of the practices that I saw, whether it's in my childhood or when I was in Jamaica, where I'm from. I mean, where my family's from. I grew up in Chicago, and I see a lot of these practices there. So I think about my childhood in Chicago, where even if someone was sick, it was about like take it, like go down there and take Ms. Davis a plate. She's sick, or that like that was like taking a plate was a term I felt like I heard often because it was about caring for each other. It was about caring for our community and caring for people who at in any given moment can't care for themselves. But I also think about our backyard where we grew tomatoes. Fortunately, the squirrels got more of the tomatoes than we got on our plates, but still, we also grew cucumbers and we grew mint in our backyard as well. And so we talked about, and of course it was both my mom who was from Mississippi, but also my dad who was from Jamaica, that both instilled this notion that we need to be nurturing the earth, and it will provide for us. And I think we were the only folks on the block who actually had that in our backyard, but it was something that they both took from their own backgrounds. And I think about the some of these traditional systems that on how we actually do soil sequestration and just this desertification reversal, including the Quilombola communities in Brazil. This is one they talk about this rotational agroforestry method that really mimics natural forest cycles. And as we know, there was a recent article that said that Afro descendant care for the earth, along again with indigenous, is the most sustaining practices that really sustain our earth systems. In the Sahel, they have what they call the Zai pits that catch runoff and use organic matter to attract aerating termites, which is interesting, restoring thousands of hectares of desertified land. And so these are some of the practices that again that go back to millennia. I also think about and you can give me the signal if we're almost done, but I also think about the slave trade and the transatlantic slave trade, and how people came with seeds braided in their hair, and they actually brought seeds with them and recognized the importance of maintaining these seeds. We talk about the millennia old seed cultures, and how people, even as they were being enslaved and put in the hulls of ships, thank you, they recognized that they wanted to continue this stewardship and this relationship and this harmony with the earth and food and agriculture and land. And so I will stop there. There's so many more examples I can share, but just wanted to kind of give a bit of a sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I love that image of sort of carrying the seeds like children in a way across the water. And also this reminder of that sustainability isn't just a scientific um, exercise, right? That it is relational and ethical and deeply rooted in histories and in people's communities. Um, We've heard that Dora was in a previous meeting, and so not here yet. I'm just double checking that she's not here yet. We've got just a few minutes, so I think I want to just open this up to the group and invite Samira to participate as well if you'd like to. Anything that you heard from any of your fellow leaders here in this room that you wanted to comment on or ask a question about?
I would like to comment, how it's so I've always been pretty much opposed to the word universal because I believe we're relatively, all relatives, right? But I really appreciate the land acknowledgements that are being openly, and I also appreciate part of the history that is still kind of hidden, especially with Afro descendancy and this stuff, especially on land back and a lot of territories where the enslavement was taking place and where they had to reside. They were taken away from their homelands and out there, and then generation after generation. And then today, with the land back movements and this stuff for the original peoples and out there, um, how we grouped together and we shared, you know, in harmony with one another. It's like, you become relative one another. And how, especially with the seeds in that there, anything that you leave from home in that there, you want to take some familiarity or whatever it may be. Or in a lot of places within my territories and this stuff in that there, we tried to bring our own foods, our own corns or whatever it is where we had to go in out there because we didn't know where we were being moved to. So we had that relationship of that sustainability. And we wanted to make sure that we cared for that because that was our lifeline. So I heard that within all the women in out there. So the appreciation of nature and this evolution that we're in and just the sustainability is so important. And it all comes back, it all stems back into the women are the incubation of the future, even though, AI is, remining or redoing whatever is cloning in different areas and out there. But those individuals that are being brought into this world will not have that memory base that flows within our rivers that are inside us. So, I mean, it's just this whole thing that's happening. Just it excites me because especially listening to the younger ones, really you can feel that energy in them and you can really hear through just watching them how they just absorbed everything that was passed on to them in that blood memory. So I applaud you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you so much, Great Grandmother Mary. Anyone else have something they'd like to respond to before we shift gears a little bit? Okay. Thank you so much again. I'm
Yes,
so grateful for your wisdom. Oh, did someone unmute in the panel? Okay. Sorry, I missed it. I see.
yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to get to
yes.
questions and answers later from the larger group. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and send you into some small groups for conversation. And then we'll respond to questions in the chat if we have time after that. But we want to give you practice using this particular tool of gathering and being in dialogue around the global ethical stock take. So I'm going to actually turn things over to Anne Smith to describe what's going to happen next.
Hello, I'm Ann Smith, and I'm co-chair of the Women's Task Force of the Parliament of World Religions and co-founder and facilitator of the Green Tent Circle. And so the word circle should trigger what I'm going to preach and teach, is that I believe that in a circle conversation where everyone is equally valued, shares the time, and shares the leadership, it's always, for me, it's always successful. And I've been doing this around the world for 40 some years. And I always say, and if it doesn't work, your money back. And I've never had to give my money back, but of course, everything was free. Anyway, you're going to be breaking up into circles of 5 or 6. And if there's someone in your circle who already is a circle facilitator, they will help start it. And then we need to have a timekeeper. And a timekeeper is going to divide the time. And we have about 20, 25 minutes for each one to speak. So let's just say everyone has 3 minutes. And when that 3 minutes is up, it's up. Because we really believe that in a circle, we do share the time, the power, the resources. And everyone in that circle, in your circle, is a leader and will help to keep it on task. Then we'll have a reporter. So you have a facilitator, you have a timekeeper, and you have a reporter. And the reporter is just going to take your collective wisdom that has come out of that, and you can put it in the chat. And we're also going to have a way afterwards to be able to hopefully receive all of your wonderful wisdom. So I hope that's real clear. And be patient, as the technology is going to put you in your small breakout rooms with a facilitator, a timekeeper, a recorder, and the rest, all leaders in keeping you on task. And I'm going to read to you what the question number 4 of the 5 guiding questions of the Global Ethic is: what traditions, histories, or practices, cultural, spiritual, from your community teach us to live in greater harmony with nature? And as you heard, from all the panelists, they spoke from their culture, from their experience. So it's now your turn, and have fun. Have fun. This should be a very meaningful time for everyone.
People are sort of trickling back in, so thank you so much. We're delighted that Dora's available and the technology has been sorted out, so we're going to let her respond to the main question for 5 minutes first, and then we'll invite, and many thanks to the genius behind the curtain there. Then we'll invite you to respond. If you're a reporter who would rather maybe write a few sentences into the chat, we can read those aloud too. But Dora, I want to invite your response first to this question from the Global Ethical Stocktake that everyone's been talking about here. What traditions, histories, or practices from your community teach us to live in greater harmony with nature? And we'll have about 5 minutes, and I'll give you a little wave when your time is up. Thank you and welcome.
I may start. Okay. Oh, hello everybody. Thanks for the invitation. I'm very proud to be here. And thanks for Elizabeth to make the invitation and introduce me to you all. Well, my name is Dora Sugimoto. I come from São Paulo in Brazil, and I have been working with the social and popular movement since at the end of the 90s. And I used to work in what we call prefeituras, which city councils, and we have many problems with the movement of the people who didn't have houses. And then I start to work with them. And after they get the houses, they have no job. So we start to talk about what to do. And one thing that they didn't know was to construct, because they are building those own houses. And then for the men, it was easier, but for the women, more difficult. And then we start to talk what to do. And one thing that they used to do in the town where I used to live is Santos in São Paulo. It's a rich place, but they have a very important industry for fabrics, and they start to sew, and many ladies know how to sew, but they didn't have the equipment and the things. So we sent some projects for some churches organization like Caritas, and they give us the machines, and then we start to work to the city hall, making uniforms, and then we start to do many other works. So they know how to work, but not to think about their working, no content. So this is our challenge, or my challenge, because I don't see. I don't see, and not a button I can do. And what I used to say that I don't do, but I do hats. And then we started to organize different groups because it was easier to organize them where they live, because it's it's far expensive to move to one place to another. So we start to organize small groups in the neighborhood, and each time we have different kind of type of work, and then we specialize some groups for doing T-shirts, others to uniforms. So we try to organize the women, and then start we start to participate. What we call here Central Movement Popular. It's a central. They organize people, uh, organizations in any kind of uh, job or price. And this is a very important movement here in Brazil. And since 2000, it was come bigger and bigger. And until now, especially the women organizations. Yesterday we have a very big meeting here, and March is March week. March is that the way we say? Yeah. And you know, in your countries too, many uh, meetings and organizations and activities had taken place. Nowadays, I work here in the government of President Seguro, and we have organizing in a social economy. We have a special secretary in the labor ministry, and here in the presidents of Lula's, where I work now.
Thank you so much, Dora, for reminding us again the economic impacts that we're talking about disproportionately affect women, and that these small groups, even small sewing cooperatives, can really make a significant change. So we don't have to start big. We can start small. So thank you so much. I want to invite maybe two or three of the groups to share out. We're getting close to the end of our time. And I'll leave it to Jessica. Should folks maybe raise their digital hand if they would like to share? And we'll call on you if you have something that you would like to share from your group. Any resonances, or maybe you discovered that you all share something in common. If you can't find your digital hand, you can just wave your actual hand. All right. Michelle, I'm going to invite you to unmute and just share briefly
Yes.
what you.
We all talked about very different traditions, but we came up with some themes. And I would say honoring the elements in nature was a common theme. Making ritual offerings for a relationship with both the earth and the cosmos. Having gratitude for abundance and the earth is the earth's offerings, and also generosity in sharing food, not only with family and friends, but with our community. So those are some of the themes that came up.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing that. Any other group reporters want to share anything?
Hi there. Well, the interesting thing about our group was the fact that we came from different part of the world, from North America, South America, Africa, and India and Asia, right? And we all share the same thing besides the many different cultural and spiritual expressions of it, which was the understanding that without a reciprocity behavior that call for justice, that speaks about taking care of our community, which also includes non-human beings. It is very hard to to keep allowing things are as how far they are going, right? So I feel that that is really valuable, and we also were very aware about immigration as a factor here. Um, how to establish balance among so many different cultures, maybe sharing the same place, but also always with this call to come back to our common points that unite us instead of divide us. And from there, just, engage with community needs. Again, also including Mother Earth. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Maria, for sharing your group conversation. We may have time for one more sharing if anybody feels compelled to do that. I'm scrolling between two pages of pictures, so if I don't see you waving your hand, please feel free to just speak. Okay. I don't, oh, okay. It's your name says Ann Smith, but clearly I don't think you are Ann Smith, but please go ahead and share.
No, my name is Gary Robbins, and I
Thank you.
know Ann, and she lives about 30 miles from me, but I don't know how my name got changed. Uh,
That's fine.
I met with Jyoti, uh, who is from Fiji, and one of the things that she mentioned was that it's interesting that in many of the climate things that we invest our time in, do not talk about the importance of our vegan lifestyle and how great the effect would be if we all stopped using so much meat in our diets and what that would do for the environment.
Mhm.
And I shared with her that I have been part of a couple organizations here in Southwest Florida, and that we have a reset organization, which is an acronym, and we have recently changed the meaning of the acronym with the statement that as human, and it ties in so much with what was shared by some of the women earlier. As human beings, our great work in the 21st century and our prime interbeing responsibility is to be reset, restoring Earth as our sacred ecological trust. And so those are the two main things that we talked about.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for allowing me to share
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, thank you, Gary, and for your conversation partner. You just reminded me of Thomas Berry, who's part of my
Oh, of
tradition
course, yes.
of reminding us of the great work of our time. So thank you so much. I do want to share that you all now have the tools that you need to hold your own dialogue circle around this question and the others in the Global Ethical Stocktake in your wherever your context is for convening a circle like that. And we would like to collect some of those stories or reports from those dialogue circles. And so there is a link. It's just to a Google document or a Google form, excuse me, where you can list your name, your organization, when and where you gathered, and just give us a little report or even a story from that dialogue. You can do it more than once if you decide to convene a group that meets regularly. I think that
Where we can put it? Sorry.
I think that link is
Where we can put
there.
it?
And
Okay.
And you can send us that anytime. If you have pictures, there's an email address included in the form to send pictures to because um, we can't manage maybe the size of the downloads for pictures through that form. So you can send those to us via email. And that will be the Center for Ecumenical Interreligious Engagement will be creating a web page that will be collecting and sharing these stories in the next couple of months. And that's related to a June webinar from the Parliament. And so I want to invite Anne to share a little bit of information about that.
Okay, we will have in June, we haven't set the date yet, but for you to fill out that form and also to come and join us, whether you have held a circle conversation on this or an event on this or not, because I think hearing from others will also inspire. What we want to have is more and more kind of like you drop a pebble in the water and then all of these circles just radiate out. And that's what we're working on. That this event is a beginning to inspire you to do the same thing that we did today. And we will have this video as a teaching tool, so you can show it to your group before. They'll have an idea, and they can go to the Center for Earth Ethics for more videos, for all the information. So we'll have all the tools, and the June event is really to help support this as an ongoing experience for the grassroots and for those who are in positions like Gary for Reset to be able to reach out to the grassroots and hold these conversations. So we're excited about this. We really want to thank this coming out of Brazil and being carried all throughout the world. And this is kind of our North American, but I love that you come from many different countries, so you can certainly respond to us and this will go out to every participant. You'll have that form, that Google form that Kara talked about to fill out and to send. And we will have on our website, the Parliament of the World's Religions, we will have the video that will come out from this. We will have some of the stories that are coming out of this, and we'll have some of the other tools. So you see, we are saying goodbye, and I'm going to turn this over to my friend Jackie, who is so wonderful and wrapping up things, but to turn this over and closing our circle. But I just want to say the importance of everyone's participation, engaging every other one's participation, as many as we can, as many as our influence allows, because this is a conversation that doesn't have to be to divide us. This is a conversation that will unite us and connect us deeply to Mother Nature. So I want to thank Maruk, who you haven't seen, and Jessica, who are in. Maybe we could just turn on their photos for just a bit before we turn it over to Jack. Maruk, can we just see you, please? And Jessica, just to wave, who have done a lot of the technical.
They're there. And Rosie.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So remember, this is recorded. You will get the recording. And now, Jackie, if you want to close the circle, and you'll see I always light a candle when I am in this kind of event. And when she finishes, I'm going to blow out the circle, and we will have ended this wonderful, wonderful time. And thank you all who have come. Thank everyone, our speakers, Kara for being our moderator, for Seattle University for taking our stories, for all of the organizations that have helped us in partnering with us. It's made a huge difference. Jackie.
Thank you. Wow, it feels like we're already, you already closed it so beautifully. And I in some ways want to go through and also thank everyone again, but I know we only have about 30 seconds left. So I just want to in closing, just reiterate and embrace all of the circle concept that has really been at the very center of our conversation today, like the circles, the connections, the regenerative nature of the circle. It can always open, it can always expand. And in a circle, we're all interdependent on each other, and we're all in common, in unity. And so and this was just reiterated in every speaker that we had today. So I appreciate our grounding in faith. I appreciate our grounding in ethics. I appreciate our grounding in circle and in love. That's something that's unsaid often, because I don't know how many times we've said the word love, but love is actually what drives so everything. And so I do want to remind us of that. And I just end on that note of love and unity and circle. So thank you all. And I look forward to continue to be in community with you. And I know we all share that sentiment, I hope. Thank you, and love you all.